Good morning, members of the media. Good morning to the people of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. Welcome to this media briefing hosted by the United National Congress, the alternative government of our republic. Today, this morning, we will be addressing two key issues confronting our nation. Firstly, we will look at the crisis occurring in the utility sector, particularly the recent scandals surrounding TSTT and other public utilities. Our colleague, the Honorable and Distinguished MP for Princestown, the Honorable Barry Padarath, will address that issue. And subsequent to his presentation, I will address what I would like to describe as the continued relentless assault on our independent institutions under our Constitution by this rogue, gangster-type criminal administration led by Keith Christopher Rowley, who is currently vacationing in Guyana, whilst the people suffer, and most importantly, the oil spill continues to haunt the people of Tobago. So, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, it is my distinct pleasure and honor to invite our colleague, Member of Parliament for Princestown, Member of Parliament with responsibility for public utilities in our cabinet, the Honorable Barry Padarath. Welcome, Barry Padarath. The floor is now yours.
Thank you, Senator Mark. Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago, particularly members of the media. We have seen over the past few weeks, from October to where we are today, the unfolding saga, fiasco, and scandal at state-owned TSTT. Carnival might be over, but the Minister of Public Utilities remains at the center of the old mass that is still playing out at TSTT. Yesterday, I took particular attention to the Guardian editorial calling for the minister to appear before the Joint Select Committee of Parliament. But I want to also remind the national community that this call was first made by the official opposition of Trinidad and Tobago. Had it not been for the opposition, the matters surrounding the scandal and the fiasco surrounding TSTT and the cyber attack that occurred in October of 2023 would not have been ventilated in a matter in the public's interest as it is being done today. So I think the Guardian is playing a bit of catch-up with us. But very similar to the concerns that we have raised, I want to share with you this morning, for those of you that would have missed the Guardian's editorial yesterday. The headline read, Minister, TSTT Board have questions to answer. It says, and I quote, the revelations put forth by the former TSTT CEO Lisa Agard at Monday's Joint Select Committee meeting have not only raised substantial doubts about the Board of Directors' leadership, but have also left the Public Utilities Minister, Marvin Gonzalez, with a set of questions that demands answers. A point of contention arises from the claim Agard provided Minister Gonzalez with misleading information, which he subsequently shared with Parliament suggesting there was no customer data breach during the cyber attack in November 2023. However, during Monday's Joint Select Committee session, which is probing the cyber breach, AGOD claimed her sole interaction with the minister was limited to a WhatsApp message which did not mention anything about customer data not being compromised. She also maintained the minister misconstrued the contents of a letter from TSCT's Assistant General Manager of Business to enterprise customers, which assured that category of customers that their data and information was not compromised. Ladies and gentlemen, the editorial went on to say, moreover, compounding the issue, AGOD appeared to have been made the scapegoat for TSCT's failure to properly communicate when the board's chairman, Sean Roach, acting CEO, Kent Weston, and corporate environment, social, and reputation manager, Kamal Georges, appeared before the Joint Select Committee at a previous sitting. The emphasis of their message to the JSC was on the need for TSCT to enhance the effectiveness of their communication in response to the cyber breach, rather than providing an explanation for communication breakdown. The reputation of TSCT has been further tarnished by the sequence of events. The severity of the matter is compounded by the fact that AGOD and former CFO Shiva Ramnarayan, who were ousted from TSCT following the breach, played a pivotal role in reviving the company. If we are to take Ramnarayan's and AGOD's testimonies at face value, they ultimately steered the company out of a $3 billion debt and were transforming it back to a profitable entity within the last 2 years. It ends by saying, in this light, it is imperative the Joint Select Committee allows the nation a chance to hear from both the board and the minister, giving them the platform to justify their decisions on TSCT's operations. Since Ms. AGOD and Mr. Ramnarayan appeared at the Joint Select Committee and there was damning and explosive content coming from Ms. AGOD and from Mr. Ramnarayan in terms of the role that the board played and the communication with Ms. AGOD and the Minister of Public Utilities, the Minister has taken a vow of silence. To borrow the Prime Minister's word, the Minister appears as though he is suffering from PIP, because the Minister refused when the media reached out to him for a comment, saying that he will wait for the investigation to be completed before he speaks. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to raise this matter. The Minister has indicated in December of 2023 that he would appoint an investigator into what occurred regarding the cyber breach at TSCT. When the opposition raised the involvement of the minister in November of 2023, followed up by my motion of privilege against the minister for misleading the parliament in December of 2023, the minister took the position that an investigation was ongoing. But as the fiasco unfolded, we saw the tentacles of the minister's involvement in this entire fiasco becoming more and more compounded. And therefore, that is why I said earlier that Carnival might be over, but the Minister of Public Utilities remains at the center of the old mass that is still playing out at TSCT. The Minister himself has now become embroiled into this entire matter and is now a main feature of the duration and the aftermath of what occurred regarding the cyber breach. And therefore, it is the opposition's view that the minister cannot, in effect, be investigating himself. The minister cannot appoint an investigator to investigate his conduct in this matter. And therefore, it is the opposition's view that we will not support and we have no faith, trust, and confidence in any investigation being conducted by an investigator appointed by the minister and the board of TSCT. That is the first point. The second point that I want to raise with you has to do with a matter that has been raised by the Communication Workers Union. And the Communication Workers Union has come out emphatically and they have stated that more heads must roll. And you would recall that I have been raising in the public space persons round square pegs, in round holes being appointed to state boards and state institutions. But the CWU this morning is raising the conduct of the board being complicit in this entire matter. And the CWU is calling on the Prime Minister. But I also took notice that the Secretary General of the CWU is also saying that while they are making the call for the Prime Minister to fire the board, they also have no faith that that is going to happen. And therefore they are reminding the Prime Minister that a general election is looming. But I want to say to also the CWU and all others who believe at this 11th hour that there will be any change in the Prime Minister's approach, there will be none. Because the Prime Minister, the Minister and the board refuse to be answerable to the people of Trinidad and Tobago. But I want to throw the opposition's support behind the call made by the Communication Workers Union this morning. The entire board, ASCO, at TSCT. Ladies and gentlemen, yesterday I raised several questions in the public space that I believe that the Minister of Public Utilities must be upfront in terms of his answering. And I want to traverse those questions because I want to say to Minister Marvin Gonzalez, you can run for as long as you want, but you cannot hide. Because this matter is not going away. These questions are not going away, and every single day, we, the responsible opposition of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, whether it's inside of the Parliament, through the Joint Select Committee, through the sittings of Parliament, through question time, through motions on the adjournment, or whether through these press conferences, we will continue to repeat our call for you to answer these questions. So, Minister, you can run, but you cannot hide from these questions. And the questions that we need answers to is one, whether it is true that Lisa Agard communicated directly with you, providing updated and accurate information that you chose to disregard on October 31st, 2023, when you came to the Parliament of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago and answered a question posed to you by the opposition. Two, did the Minister through the board place a gag order on TSCT's executive management in the aftermath of the cyber attack? Three, was the Minister made aware of the October 3rd breach and the alleged insubordination by middle management that withheld critical information from Ms. Agard and Mr. Ramnarine before they were fired? Four, in light of allegations of conflicts of interest with members of the board and the operations of TSCT, was the Minister aware of these conflicts? Six, in light of all the allegations of incompetence swirling around the politically appointed board of TSCT, why was the board not fired? Seven, why did the Minister not come back to the Parliament or put in the public space a correction to the information that he provided erroneously? Seven, what role did the Minister have in appointing Mr. Weston to act as CEO of TSCT? 8. What is the nature of the relationship between the chairman of TSCT, Mr. Weston, and the Minister? And I will go into that in a short while. Ladies and gentlemen, one of the issues that we have raised with you in this entire fiasco has to do with due process. And one has to ask and question the Minister, the board, if due process was followed and an investigation is underway, on whose instruction did the firing of Lisa Agard and Shiva Ramnarayan come about? Who inside of the cabinet called the shot for Lisa Agard and Shiva Ramnarayan? I spoke to you earlier about square pegs in round holes. I saw the CWU is now calling for one Kamal Georges, the Environment and Reputation Manager at TSCT, to go. I want to also remind you that it was that same Kamal Georges, when he was appointed to that position at TSCT, it was the opposition who raised the concerns of that appointment. We raised the concerns as to whether or not this was reward for political hatchet jobs being conducted while he was in the media. We asked those questions. Today, I want to say that there is a pattern of political prostitution of state appointments, whether it's boards or jobs in the state sector, of persons who carried out the bidding of the PNM between the period 2010 to 2015, and the chickens are coming home to roost. Because what you are seeing happening is the reward for political hatchetness through incompetent persons being placed in high-ranking positions is costing the taxpayer of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, where they cannot perform the job that they were hired to do. And therefore this morning I will simply ask whether or not Mr. Kamal Georges' appointment had anything to do with a guardian angel, Gabriel, in collusion with a cabinet minister, whether or not that collusion had anything to do with Kamal Georges' appointment, that today we are seeing the poisoned fruit of that appointment at the detriment of the management and operations of TSCT. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to raise with you that in consultation with the leader of the opposition, I have had cause to file 4 Freedom of Information requests through our agents. And those Freedom of Information requests have gone to TSCT. And I also want to tell the board and executive management, the current board and executive management of TSCT, you can try to obfuscate, block, hide the information, but the opposition will see this through whether or not it requires us going to the courts of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago to get the information in the public's interest. And this is the information, the 4 Freedom of Information requests that we have put for the attention and response of TSCT. 1. Is it true that TSCT is currently providing private bodyguard protection for the acting CEO, Kent Weston? 2. If so, please list the company that is providing this bodyguard protection and at what cost. 3. Who made the decision to hire private bodyguard protection for Mr. Weston? Was it the board or was it the executive management? The second Freedom of Information we have asked and put forward to TSCT. We would like copies of all board minutes for the months of October, November, December, January, and February, during and post the cyber attack and the decisions that were made by the board regarding the handling of the cyber attack. 3. The third Freedom of Information. Copies of all correspondence re a cyber attack from TSCT to the Minister of Public Utilities. 4. copies of all correspondence from the executive management to the board. We have also asked, in the public's interest, copies of all the evaluation of Mr. Kent Weston. We are seeking to find out who would have been responsible for the promotion of the lowest ranked performance executive at TSCT. And we are asking, did Kent Weston fail the initial probation, and was he put on extended probation at the time of the cybersecurity incursion to the highest office in TSCT as the acting CEO? Ladies and gentlemen, the final question that we are asking this morning on this matter, for now, has to do with whether or not Kent Weston's appointment as acting CEO of TSCT was decided on the golf course, or was it decided in the boardroom? And we continue to ask, because we have the answer, what is the nature of the relationship between the acting CEO of TSCT, the chairman of the board, and two high-ranking officials in the cabinet of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago? Was Kamal Georges hired at TSCT for the political hatchet job that he would have engaged in? We are asking whether or not this is true. Was he the blue-eyed boy who was plunged into the position of Environment and Reputation Manager, being protected at the expense of Lisa Agard and Shiva Ramnarayan? Trinidad and Tobago, we have to really wake up and connect the dots. Why is the government and the minister protecting the board? What is the relationship with the board and the executive management, the manager of Environment and Reputation? And if we were to connect the dots, the picture would become more and more clearer as to why Lisa Agard and Shiva Ramnarayan were fired without due process while the minister instructed an investigation, and that investigation is still underway. So those were some of the questions and the issues that I wanted to raise with you this morning. As I said, should TSCT fail to provide the information, we will be taking these matters through the courts in the public's interest, in the interest of over 1 million customers whose data was vulnerable, who in some instances saw their banking information, their private information out on the streets, on the dark web, while an incompetent minister and government continue to grope in the dark without protecting the interest of the people of Trinidad and Tobago and the customers of TSCT. So I now pass you on back on to Senator Mark, who will take you through the rest of this morning's presentation.
Thank you, my distinguished colleague, the Honorable Barry Padarath, for that excellent presentation on the scandals enveloping that state-owned enterprise called TSTT. Members of the media and members of the public, the guardrails of our democracy continue to be weakened, undermined, and subverted by undemocratic and authoritarian forces located at the very helm of this criminal enterprise passing today as the government of our nation. It has now become very clear that our independent institutions have come under relentless attack and repeated assaults by this administration, reducing trust and confidence in those very institutions by the population. We are talking about institutions such as the Integrity Commission, the Police Service Commission, the Office of the Commissioner of Police, the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, the Public Service Commission, among others. Members of the media, it is clear that there are some serious challenges facing our society. And today, we want to focus on one of them, one of the institutions that is under attack by the Prime Minister and his government. We refer to the Integrity Commission and the attempt by the present executive to undermine this institution. Now, the leader of the opposition, the Honorable Kamla Prasad Bisesa, recently issued a statement a couple of hours ago calling on the President, Christine Kangaloo, to explain the rationale for choosing one Mr. Hayden Gittins, the close neighbor and friend of the Speaker of the House of Representatives, and her husband, one Mr. Newman George. How did this gentleman, Hayden Gittins, got to be appointed as chairman of the Integrity Commission? Members of the media, you may wish to note that under Section 4, Subsection 4, Section 4, Subsection 4 of the Integrity in Public Life Act, I quote, "The chairman and other members of the commission shall be appointed by the President after consultation with the Prime Minister and the Leader of the Opposition." What this means is that under the Integrity in Public Life Act, the President, after consultation, and we know what consultation means under our Constitution, it is a mockery, it is a sham, and at the end of the process, it is the President, Christine Carla Kangaloo, who appoints the chairman of the Integrity Commission. I want to make it very clear that consultation under our Constitution is a mockery and a complete sham, and the effective power resides and lies in the hands of the President of the Republic. Now, we would have noticed before the expiry date of January the 11th of the former chairman of the Integrity Commission, Professor Rajendra Ramlogan, the Prime Minister, and he got some allies in the media, or I should say, using the cover of the media, including a former chairman of the Integrity Commission, including a former independent senator who writes for the media, coming out in defense of the removal of the former chairman of the Integrity Commission. That came against the background of an unprecedented and brazen assault on the integrity of the Integrity Commission by the Prime Minister of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. Dr. Rowley believes that he is Papa Doc. He believes that he is an Emperor Bukasa. He is above the law. Nobody must investigate Dr. Papa Doc Rowley. So what did he do? He has a puppet at President's house called Christine Carla Kangaloo. And he went on a relentless assault, accusing the Integrity Commission and its chairman of conducting politically motivated investigations into the Prime Minister's conduct. He said they were ill-advised. Could you imagine that? We are governed by the rule of law. We have an independent Integrity Commission under our Constitution. And the Prime Minister accuses the Integrity Commission of conducting ill-advised, politically motivated investigations into him. Now, what was the Integrity Commission investigating? They were written to by the United National Congress on the acquisition of a property at the notorious Inez Gate project at Chauvin in Tobago by the Prime Minister and his daughter. Members of the media, I ask you to travel to Chauvin right now, and you'll see a big billboard telling you the price of an Inez Gate apartment being $1.8 million. We understand that if you looked at their website, it went down to 1.7 million. At the material time, it is now public knowledge that the Prime Minister paid $1.2 million for a $1.8 million apartment. He got a gift of $600,000. And not only that, his daughter also got an apartment, not for $1.8 million, as Gilbert Peterson paid, as Newman George paid, but got it for what? $1.2 million. Another discount of $600,000. A combined figure of over $1 million. And this local version of Papa Doc and Emperor Bukasa has the audacity to question the Integrity Commission investigation based on a letter written by the UNC calling on the Integrity Commission to investigate this gift given to the Prime Minister and his daughter. And he bullied, harassed, intimidated members of the Integrity Commission, particularly its chairman. So much so that he underfunded, he cut the allocation to the Integrity Commission for the last period 21, 22, and 23. So that the Integrity Commission was underfunded and starved by our local Papa Doc, who believes that he is above the law in our country. Brothers and sisters, Dr. Keith Christopher Rowley poses a clear and present danger to our democracy in Trinidad and Tobago by his conduct. He's undermining our democracy, and he has a puppet in President's house, like a tag team, undermining our democracy. Brothers and sisters, they had it for Rajendra Ramlogan. As soon as January the 11th came, they did not renew his appointment. I want to ask Christine Kala Kangalu, Excellency, who instructed you to remove Rajendra Ramlogan? Was it the Prime Minister? Who in the government instructed you, Excellency, to remove the former chairman? Was it done at your own discretion? Or were you instructed and directed to remove Rajendra Ramlogan? So the Prime Minister wants a pliable, malleable, flexible chairman, an Integrity Commission that will not investigate his suspicious and questionable transactions because he says so. So the long and short is that we learned that a gentleman appeared on the scene. Nobody never heard about him. Nobody never saw him. Nobody knows him. His contribution to integrity matters or public affairs matters almost non-existent. But he came on the scene. He burst onto the stage. His name is one Mr. Hayden Gittins. He is now our chairman of the Integrity Commission. And since he came to office, every decision aimed at strengthening the Integrity Commission, he has pulled back. He has pulled back. Lawyers volunteer to go to the court on underfunding. He discontinued that. Pull back. I want to ask Mr. Hayden Gittins, are you going to discontinue your investigation into the conduct of the Prime Minister and that $600,000 discount or thereabouts he received as a gift from Alan Warner, the developer of Inez Gate? Is that what is going to happen? Will you investigate Dr. Rowley in the future? Mr. Gittins? We like to know. Members of the media, who is Mr. Hayden Gittins? Where did he come from? Members of the media, all you have to do is go to what is called the website of the president, where the president issued what is called his CV. So his CV is on the website of the president. And one of the first things that you would have noticed when you looked and examined that website, members of the media, is exactly where this man lives. Where he lives. You know where he lives? The website tells you, his resume tells you, that he lives at number 4, Jordan Avenue, West Vale, Glencoe, Trinidad. That is public knowledge because that was on the public website of the president via his resume. We also discovered that Newman George, the current chairman of Paria Fuel Trading Company, whose conduct came under scrutiny when those 4 divers were murdered by the company that he oversaw, he was in charge of. And the Commission of Inquiry called that action that resulted in the deaths of these 4 divers as corporate manslaughter. So, Newman George, the husband of the Speaker of the House of Representatives, lives at number 6, Jordan Avenue or Drive, West Vale, Glencoe, Trinidad. They are neighbors. They are neighbors. When you are closely living near to one another, you are living near to me. I am living near to you. We are neighbors. And you know, sometimes neighbors are even stronger than family. Neighbors are even stronger than your own daughter at times and sons. But you know what, members of the media? At no point in time in the gentleman's CV that is posted on the president's website, did this chairman of our Integrity Commission, who is supposed to be above, like Caesar's wife, reproach, who's supposed to be impartial, neutral, and dispassionate, at no point in time did he tell Trinidad and Tobago and the 1.4 million people of our country that I, Hayden Gittins, is the neighbor of the Speaker of the House of Representatives, a former Attorney General of our country under the PNM, and I'm the neighbor of Newman George, the husband of the Speaker, chairman of PARIA, a high-ranking member of the PNM, and one of the best friends of the Prime Minister. And at no point in time did Mr. Hayden Gittins tell Trinidad and Tobago that story. What does that say about Mr. Hayden Gittins' personal integrity? What does that say? If you do not tell Trinidad and Tobago this, let the people make a judgment. I want to ask certain questions here this morning. Our intelligence have told us that Mr. Hayden Gittins may be a card-carrying member of the People's National Movement. We call on Mr. Hayden Gittins to confirm or deny he is a card-carrying member of the People's National Movement. If he is not a card-carrying member, as the public is saying, is he a closet PNM? Let Mr. Hayden Gittins tell us. Members of the media, Mr. Hayden Gittins worked as the Chief Executive Officer of the Securities and Exchange Commission between 2017 to 2019. Under Section 10 of the SEC, or what is called the Securities Act, the President appoints all the commissioners. Not the President of the Republic. The President means a cabinet. All members of the commission is appointed, all members are appointed rather, by the cabinet headed by Keith Christopher Rowley. In 2017, it was headed, that commission was headed by a fellow called Douglas Mendez. So all the members are appointed by the cabinet. Under Section 22 of the Securities Act, the board, the commission, on the approval of the Minister of Finance, appoint the CEO. Let me repeat that. Under Section 22 of the Securities Act, the Commission, in consultation and approval of the Minister of Finance, appoints the Chief Executive Officer. Further, the terms and conditions of the Chief Executive Officer are determined by the Minister of Finance. You know what that tells us in essence? That Mr. Hayden Gittins could not have become the CEO of the Securities and Exchange Commission without the blessings of the Minister of Finance and the Prime Minister. That is what it is telling us. But he is now the chairman of our Integrity Commission. Isn't Mr. Gittins tainted? And before I deal with due diligence on the part of the president, I want to bring to your attention the following. Mr. Hayden Gittins was the corporate manager of finance at RBTT, the Royal Bank of Trinidad and Tobago, when it was in existence. Wayne Kangaloo, the brother of the president, Christine Kangaloo, worked at that same institution, had relations and contacts with this gentleman because they were managers, one corporate, the other one commercial. Wayne Kangaloo, as far as we understand, is the brother of the President of the Republic. I call on the President of the Republic to tell Trinidad and Tobago whether Wayne Kangaloo is her brother. And I call on Wayne Kangaloo to tell Trinidad and Tobago whether he worked at RBTT as a commercial general manager or a general manager with responsibility for commercial matters. And what was the relationship between Hayden Gittins and Wayne Kangaloo? The question that we have to ask members of the media: what kind of due diligence did the President of the Republic conduct when she made that appointment of Mr. Hayden Gittins? Didn't the President not know that her brother and Gittins worked for RBTT for several years and they knew each other? And they obviously would have had a working relationship because of the nature of their work. If the President knew this, did the President deliberately undermine our Integrity Commission and by extension our democracy by appointing somebody who had relations with her brother? Because remember, members, under Section 4, subsection 4 of our Integrity in Public Life, the President is the person who appoints the chairman. And if the chairman and your brother have a relationship, you should have done the necessary due diligence. The question that we have to ask members of the media: this new chairman of the Integrity Commission will now be in possession of all the private, personal, and confidential data and information relating to assets, income, and liabilities of every member of the opposition in Trinidad and Tobago. So would our information end up in Balize House? Would our assets, liabilities, and income end up on the desk of the Prime Minister? On the desk of the President of the Republic? On the desk of the Cabinet? Or that corrupt headquarters that cost this country, the taxpayers of this country, because they are yet to account for the over $100 million it cost them to build Balize House. That money could not have come from car raffles. So this is a very serious matter. So we call on the President of this Republic. Since you did not conduct due diligence, because you could not have conducted proper due diligence and appoint Mr. Hayden Gittins. You couldn't do that. Your brother alone would tell you, because of the relationship between Gittins and your brother at RBTT, you cannot appoint this man to be chairman of the Integrity Commission. Because Kangaloo is related to Kangaloo. Wayne is the brother of Christine Carla Kangaloo. So where is the impartiality? Where is the neutrality? Where is the dispassionate approach in these matters? Members of the media, we call at this press conference, this media briefing, for Mr. Hayden Gittins to do the honorable and decent thing. That is the only way out. He has been tainted. He has been compromised. He is the neighbor of the Speaker and Newman George. He never told Trinidad and Tobago that. He could not have been appointed as the CEO without the blessings of the Minister of Finance and the cabinet led by the Prime Minister. He worked very closely with Wayne Kangaloo, the brother of Christine Kangaloo, who is now the president of our nation. And at no point in time did these matters come to the attention of the public of Trinidad and Tobago. So we call on Mr. Hayden Gittins to do the honorable thing and tender your resignation forthwith. Failing to do so, we call on Christine Kangaloo, unless she is relentless in singing and in spreading the gospel according or in accordance with the PNM. She's a crusader. She spreads the gospel in accordance with the PNM. So unless she is continuing to do that, we call on the President, Her Excellency, to do the honorable thing if Mr. Gittins refuses to resign. We call on the President to immediately revoke the appointment of Mr. Gittins. There will be no confidence in Mr. Gitton's stewardship as chairman of the Integrity Commission. Because to be the chairman of the Integrity Commission, you must first have integrity. And this chairman seemed not to have even personal integrity, because if he had, he would have told Trinidad and Tobago all what I have told you. I didn't have to come and tell you that. So you need to have integrity to be in charge of the Integrity Commission. And we wish to indicate as well, if the president does not revoke his appointment, if he does not voluntarily tender his resignation, the United National Congress will have to consider other options to address this matter. I will not go into those options at this time, but we will have to consider other options to address this very serious, very sensitive, and very delicate matter. Every independent senator forms will be shown to Mr. Gittins. Every businessman on a state board, their income, assets, and liability statements will come before him. Every senior public official statement will come before him. No one is safe. Who will guard the guards? Who will guard the guards? So we call on Mr. Gittins to tender your resignation. It is the most honorable course of action that can be taken. We call on the President of the Republic, Her Excellency, because of your poor due diligence, to revoke his appointment if he does not voluntarily resign. And we are awaiting those actions on the part of those individuals. The final thing I would like to raise is this spill in the waters of Tobago. Members of the media, look at this. Look at this. Tricky leak. That's the headline. Tricky leak. This thing happened since the 7th. The 7th. 7 and 3 is 10. 10 and 10 is 20. 13. Today is the 22nd. 15 days after. The vessel is still leaking. Oil is still pouring. We are hearing that there are 5,000 metric tons of bunker fuel in that particular vessel. And the Prime Minister is jamming. He's still jamming. He forget Carnival finish. He's still jamming in Guyana. Energy conference finish. He jamming in Guyana, while the people of Tobago are suffering. They have refused to implement Tier 3 to get international assistance to plug, to lift that vessel, to drain that vessel, to stop the leak. Members, so in the circumstances, we are calling for an independent, forensic, expert investigation into all the circumstances surrounding this matter. How a vessel was able to enter our waters and was undetected. What is the role of TFG Marine, headed by Trafigura? And we also want to know what are the lessons that we have to learn to avoid any repetition of this in the future. Members of the media, I thank you so very much for being here this morning. We will now pause and to allow you to raise any issue that you like to raise surrounding the matters that we have addressed this morning. So the media, you are now invited. The floor is now open to you to ask any questions you may wish to ask.
All right, Mr. Mark Rashad here from Newsday. Now, I mean, you spoke at length about the president's brother working with Mr. Gittins. I mean, do you think that is a strong enough point to constitute as being tainted? I mean, I've worked with people and I don't really, pull with them as much,
We have a small society, Mr. Khan, and we have to be extremely careful. We are dealing with people's lives here. Your assets constitute almost your life. Because if your assets and your income fall into the wrong hands, you can be murdered in this country. So it is against that background, I'm saying this is a very sensitive and delicate matter. So there must be a whiff of bias. There must be a whiff of cronyism, nepotism, corruption, favoritism. I am saying that the chairman of the Integrity Commission must be like Caesar's wife, above reproach. And that is why we are saying you cannot, if what we have said turns out to be true. We have asked questions, but we have also come to certain tentative conclusions. If those things turn out to be true, Mr. Khan, we are calling on Mr. Gittins to tender. And the question is here, is this. Why didn't you tell the country? Let the country judge. Let the country judge. I am the neighbor of the speaker. The speaker was a former attorney general in a PNM administration. The speaker is the current speaker. She is a member of the PNM. I don't know if she's an active member, but she was a member or she is a member. I don't know. All I'm saying is perception, right? And then secondly, you have a situation where Newman George, right, is associated with the same neighborhood arrangement. All I'm saying, why did Mr. Gittins not tell Trinidad and Tobago these things? Why he didn't tell them he could not have been employed as the chief executive officer of the Securities and Exchange Commission between 2017 and 2019 without the concurrence and blessings of the Minister of Finance and the Prime Minister who heads the cabinet? And why he didn't tell us? Why he didn't tell us? Even taking your point on board. Why he didn't come and tell Mr. Khan and Trinidad and Tobago, look, I worked for 10 years with this chap called Mr. Wayne Kangaloo. Mr. Wayne Kangaloo is the brother of Christine Carla Kangaloo. Christine Carla Kangaloo is the person charged under the Integrity in Public Life Act to appoint the chairman. So in other words, the president must be made aware of all these things before she makes an appointment. And I'm saying we don't know if these things were done. Because as far as I am concerned, and you can tell me if you got information on these matters, nobody in Trinidad and Tobago knew these things in a detailed way. So all we are saying, you have to come across with a certain degree of integrity, both personal and professional. And you need to be clear on these matters so we can make a decision as to whether you should go or you should stay. But because you were not transparent, you were not open, we have to come here and tell the country our concerns about this individual not being sufficiently transparent with the public of Trinidad and Tobago. That is all we are saying.
Okay, now from your presentation, I got the sense that one of the major concerns that you all have given this so-called tainting of the Integrity Commission's head is of maybe political victimization? I mean, is that something that you think is likely?
Listen,
Or is just a possibility that
we have a prime minister who came to parliament with a pack of lies in a file. He went to the home of Ken Gordon, the then chairman of the Integrity Commission. That is what he did. He said that a prime minister, a sitting prime minister, tried to murder a sitting journalist in this country. And it all turned out to be fake news. Lies. So if a man can tell this country a pack of lies wrapped in this document called Emailgate, then listen, nobody can trust the Prime Minister of this country. And nobody can say the Prime Minister will go to any lengths in order to retain power in the most corrupt and vicious of manners. And that is why we have concern that politically, if you appear to be tainted, you can compromise our integrity, you can compromise our democracy. And we cannot sustain that, we cannot countenance that. That is all we are saying. Everything must be above board. If I was a neighbor of you, and they are making me chairman of the Integrity Commission, and you were a former Attorney General, and a current speaker, and the chairman, your husband, was appointed chairman by a PNM cabinet to be chairman of the PARIA, what would people say? What conclusion would people draw? There is something called perception, and they say sometimes perception is stronger than reality. That is all we are saying. And this is integrity we are dealing with here. This is the Integrity Commission. That is what we are saying. Any further questions, members of the media? If not, may I, on behalf of my colleague, the Honorable Barry Padarath, thank you, members of the media, for coming to this very important Thursday press conference. We continue our press conference on Sunday. You will be notified accordingly, and we wish you a very safe evening. And we call on the people of our country to be absolutely vigilant. We have gangsters, criminal enterprises, and we have people who are posing as people of integrity, holding high offices in our country, and are prepared to put their friends in critical offices that can, in the final analysis, hurt and harm our democracy in TNT. We will not countenance that. We shall resist that. We shall fight against that. And whatever we have to do to stop it, we will. Thank you, members of the media. Do have a pleasant day.